program, we've had several guests who've made several accusations against INEC. Captured by the elite, corrupt in its ranks, inefficient in its ability to ensure credible elections, poor capacity, failing technology, resident electoral commissioners who are card-carrying members of political parties. The list goes on. Well, here on Political Paradigm, we believe everyone accused has the right to defend themselves. And that's what our guests will be doing today on the program. Hello and welcome to Political Paradigm on Channels Television. I am Kayla Magwa. My guest on the program is the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi. Welcome to Political Paradigm.
Thank you for having me, Kayla.
Well,
good afternoon.
Afternoon. Elections are, at least the by-elections are over.
Yeah.
Talk to us a bit about the expectations of INEC as they were going into that exercise and what they feel about the outcome.
Thank you very much. We conducted elections in 48 constituencies, a series of by-elections and rerun elections. By-elections were conducted in 9 states to fill vacancies in the legislative houses as a result of death or resignation. And the rerun elections were court-ordered in various places. It's quite huge, you know, because some senatorial districts were involved in both by-election and rerun elections. And we prepared as usual, issued a timetable, followed up with all the activities, met with stakeholders, mobilized resources, materials, personnel for it, trained our ad hoc staff, and met with stakeholders that are very critical to the elections, like the security agencies. And I'm happy to report that largely the elections went well. There were disturbances in some places like Kano, Enugu, but largely I think it went well. And the results were declared, and as you're aware, the certificates of return have been issued, and lessons have been learned, and such lessons will be applied in the future.
So let's talk a bit about the places where the elections had to be suspended. I think Kano, Enugu,
and Taraba.
And Taraba?
Yeah.
Well, I thought there was a place in the south-south.
Yes, but eventually, I think the returning officer discovered
what
that...
state was that?
Ikoni in Akwa Ibom.
Akwa Ibom, yes.
Yeah. So
it's actually Taraba, not Akwa Ibom?
No. It's in Akwa Ibom, there were issues, but the returning officer discovered that the infraction would not affect the result, so a declaration was made. In Taraba, it was a stalemate because the margin of lead, the candidate leading and the second, the margin of lead was less than the total number of voters that collected their permanent voter card. So we needed to go back and do a supplementary election. But I think now February 14th has been fixed for the elections, and we hope that we will conclude that, and that will be the end of it.
What about issues of violence?
Yeah, the issues of violence are there. Well, in Enugu, for instance, we had violence, and which is very unfortunate. And we don't really know why, in this day and age, some politicians still feel that they could gain advantage by attacking our polling units and doing so, because we have always said it, that we will not reward bad behavior. If you attack our polling units, thinking you gain advantage, the law states very clearly what action INEC can take, and we've been applying such laws. So this is our action is a strong warning to politicians that in the future, now or in the future, we will not allow bad behavior to sail through, and we'll take action.
We have quite a lot to unpack, but I really wanted to talk to us a bit about the elections, the by-elections. So in your view as INEC, how would you score the conduct of these by-elections?
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to ask, because I'll give you exactly what happened. Now,
that makes you the right person to ask.
Well, elections are not just about what happens on election day. It's a chain of events. You start preparing for elections long before it happens. And it involves a lot of things, huge resources, materials. You have to produce non-sensitive materials. You have to produce sensitive materials. you have to train ad hoc staff, you have to train returning officers, you have to mobilize things to the polling units, deploying those things. And remember, INEC does not have all the resources it needs to deploy to polling units. What I mean in terms of logistics, we still have to rely on service providers. So we need to have MOUs with them. We need to pay them. We need to monitor what they are doing. We need to also track those activities, pre-election activities, election day activities, and post-election day activities up to the point of, presenting certificates of return. And those materials are important because we need to preserve them in case we have litigations and we are asked to bring those materials to court. But I think, for me, we performed very well from what we even had from candidates that lost in some of the states. They commended INEC. And I think they didn't have issues with our activities throughout the time. Well, in the places where, unfortunately, there was violence or there was interference, we took the actions needed. And I think all stakeholders are pleased with that.
So let's talk about some of the criticisms that INEC has had to face. I'll begin with the conduct of elections. Many elections in recent times have ended up being, sent to court, and we're seeing judgments on those elections. Some people have said that that is a clear pointer to the fact that INEC has failed in its ability to conduct free, fair, credible elections, that we can get results from the polling units and from INEC itself. I know that this result is cast in stone. Almost everything has to still go to court, and sometimes we see overturns. Talk to us a bit about this criticism and what your office thinks about it, and if they're doing anything about it.
Kayla, first of all, our democratic process provides for aggrieved persons to approach the courts if they have issues with our elections. It's right there in the Constitution, it's there in the Electoral Act. And for us, we will prefer people to go to court than to resort to self-help, carrying cutlasses or guns to attack people. So it's part of democracy. It's something that is given, that, okay, we conduct election today, we announce results, you are not pleased with it, you have suspicions, and you have evidence, the law provides an opportunity for you to go to court and provide this evidence and let the judges look at the Constitution, look at your evidence, and determine whether you have merit in what you have provided. But let's even move away from that. All over the world now, elections are becoming controversial. Electoral umpires are being viewed, in negative light by mostly candidates that lose elections. So Nigeria is also part of the world community. So that is what is going on. We try our best to conduct elections according to the laws. And we always say something, if there's no interference, our elections always go well. Now, coming to 2026 general election, for instance, most of the verdicts from the courts have vindicated us, not against us, only a few.
I'm going to let you continue, but you said if there's no interference from who?
Like the by-elections we had, people don't understand the kind of problems we face. I don't know which other country on the continent of Africa where thugs will invade polling units to take ballot boxes, or where people will hijack or kidnap our returning officers on their way to collation centers. That's the kind of problem we face. And some people have suffered scars, lifelong scars that people are not talking about. Some people have lost their lives. We don't get to hear much of that in other climes. I mean, I've been privileged to observe elections in Kenya, 2 presidential elections. I didn't see that happen. In fact, people go to polling units, they were deployed as early as 5 a.m. And when we got to, I went to a school where there were several polling units, you only find 1 or 2 policemen, around. And people patiently stayed on the queue, to vote. And when results were announced, you don't see the kind of thing you see in Nigeria. Even, I think, Sierra Leone recently, people that went there came and said, there are lessons that Nigeria needs to learn from Sierra Leoneans about the patience and the way things are organized. People don't get into fights.
Why do you think we're different?
Well, I think it's a Nigerian thing. Maybe political scientists can tell us or psychologists can tell us. I think Nigerians are very emotional about elections. Whether for good reason or for bad reason is a different thing. And I think that politicians contribute to the way people react to elections. We always advise politicians to mind what they say, because my own experience is that when politicians lose election, they tend to castigate INEC, rubbish the system, and their supporters run with that kind of narrative. And sometimes they translate this thing into action and endanger our staff. Remember, those ad hoc staff that go to the polling unit are our children. They are mostly members of the National Youth Service Corps. So if you go and attack those children, it's like you're attacking your own children. And that's the danger that we always point to, you know. So I think that for me, if you put the court verdicts on a scale of 1 to 10, I think we are 8% good. Only a few. I don't have the statistics. Only a few of those cases have been turned against us. You know, we have been vindicated by, you know, mostly all these petitions around. Now, I think again that this spirit of sportsmanship is what politicians need to imbibe. When you are going to election, you must have it at the back of your mind that it's possible for you to lose. Nigerian politicians don't like losing election. When they win election, INEC is all well and good. Watch them. When they get in front of cameras, those who win they are expressing superlatives, praising us. But go back to those who have lost. Then they will castigate us. They will say, INEC chairman did this, INEC chairman did that. Whereas, if they pay attention, or maybe they know they are just doing what they are doing, if you pay attention to our processes, you will know that it is not possible for the INEC chairman to help anybody win election. Either the INEC chairman or any national commissioner or any resident electoral commissioner, because there are enough checks and balances in the system. How are you going to do it? You know? So people don't pay attention to our rules and regulations, to the kind of innovations we have put in place, even though we announce these things all the time. So they just feel when the election doesn't go their way, it has been rigged. But that's not true.
So you were talking about, you know, the cases that had to be, you know, sent to court from the 2023 general elections before we segued into our tolerance levels. What were you going to say about those elections?
No, I'm saying that many of the cases, many of the petitions taken to the tribunals were returned in our favor, because, you know, the tribunal will find that what they are accusing us of, they don't have the evidence to prove it, quite unfortunately. And, you know, my own advice, you know, I don't expect some politicians to take it as a look. When an election has been conducted and it is convincing that you have lost, just take it. You know, it doesn't, for me, make sense to go to court when you know you cannot win this case, because the evidence is there. The election took place, the ballot papers are there, you know, the collation took place, your agents are there. We gave you the form EC8As. You can see what happened there. The ballots were counted in each polling unit. So your agents are supposed to monitor those things, and if anything goes wrong, they will say, but you don't have all the evidence. You just go to court to say that we did this and that, and then you front load a lot of narratives that don't even, you know, concern the election in evidence. Is
there any particular case that stood out for you?
No, you know, we're not talking about cases
that the judgment has been given
because
on
I don't
already.
want to be particular and be accused of, you know, but, you know, I studied some of these judgments, and you need to see, in fact, I think the media needs to look at what some of these justices are saying about these political cases coming. We need to understudy them, you know, so that people can see what is really going on in the courts. But people, when they report the judgment, they just report the summary. They don't go into details, because it is in details you see, because the judges are very, very, you know, they are very detailed. They examine issues one by one, and they break them down. And you'll be amazed the kind of things they exhume. And, you know, if you pray for 5 reliefs, they will take each relief and tell you why you don't deserve it, and bring all the laws in the land to contextualize that. That needs to be focused on by the media, honestly, so that people then see that, look, it's not about INEC. Because, Kayla, I don't understand how INEC will sabotage itself. We conduct election. That's the mandate. We prepare very hard for these elections. We spend taxpayers' money, you know, and how can you do all of that? Like general elections, it takes about 4 years to prepare for that. How would you spend 4 years preparing, innovating for something, and then you go and sabotage it? Well, I'm not saying that we don't have fifth columnists amongst us. There may be some of our staff members that may want to pander to the temptations of politicians. Again, is the politicians that try to tempt those category of staff to do what is not right. But I'm saying to you that the INEC of today, we have improved so well that it is impossible for an individual or a group of individuals to influence election anywhere without being caught. And when we catch them, the rules specify exactly what should be done, and we apply the sanctions. I'm
going to get to that in the issue of corruption in the ranks shortly, but I want to talk a bit about, you mentioned that politicians need to change their attitude. They need to become more sportsmanlike, understand that failure is a part of the game. Some people would argue, and have argued on this program, that the problem, politicians will do what politicians do. INEC should be more stringent. They should be more strict. The law may not change the heart, but it will tame the heartless. So do you think that maybe INEC probably has more responsibility in reining in these politicians? If the electoral body is so strict and very, very to the letter in the way they carry out discipline and ensuring that the process is adhered to, some might argue that that would put a politician in line, don't you think?
Thank you very much. This is an interesting question. We do our best. Now, we released the timetable and schedule of activities for Edo and Ondo recently. The elections will be conducted in September and November. Now, we issued a press statement recently listing the dates that the 16 political parties, that's for Edo, have informed us that they are going to conduct their primaries. And we advised them that as much as possible, they should conduct less rancorous primaries. Because that's a big issue that, mostly end up in court. In other words, we are imploring the political parties to follow their own rules. Please follow your rules. Because some of those cases that go to court that people are, INEC will be joined eventually in such cases, are about the primaries conducted by political parties. Because we are part of it. We witness it and we have our report. Of course, when they go to court, the aggrieved candidate will ask us to come and talk about what we witnessed. And then we'll go and talk about what we witnessed. So we meet with political parties all the time. Leaders of political parties have access to the INEC chairman. And we try to tell them the importance of following their own rules. And for me, that is the starting point. If you are a political party and you have rules, you have an ESCO, follow the rules. If you are going to conduct primaries and you say, okay, it is direct method you use or indirect or consensus, don't change the game in the middle of it, right? Or don't impose candidates. Maybe, for instance, the chairman of a political party has a candidate in mind, and when the process is going on, another candidate is doing better. They sabotage the process and impose that candidate. Of course, the candidate that knows that he was on the way to winning will not take it lightly, and he will go to court. And when they go to court, they join INEC. And when people see it, people will blame INEC. People even blame us for local government elections that we don't conduct. The states conduct local government elections. The only area council election we conduct is that of the FCT.
But you monitor.
We don't. We don't monitor local government elections.
You don't attend it? You don't?
No, we don't.
Stay by?
Although they use our register of voters, they use our polling units, but they are independent. You know, they have their own independent electoral management bodies, each of the states. So local government elections are their business. But the FCT area council elections is under the purview of INEC. So we conduct that. So as much as possible, we try to do that. Even, you know, sometimes submission of nomination forms. Before now, normally we give timetable and schedule of activities, and you will see the deadlines there. But political parties will wait until the last day and then bombard our office with their computers and their files and all of that. So what did we do? We created a portal and issued ASEX code and tell them that, look, this is what you need to do. Upload your nominated candidate within this time. And it's computer, so we give you the access code, we give you the deadline. If you don't upload before the deadline, it shuts you out. And they have the time stamp, you have the date, so you can't deny it. And since we introduced that, we've had peace, you know. So for me, we need the political parties need us. But they need to also know that unless we do the right thing at all levels, we'll continue to have challenges. And that exactly is our own advice to them, that we are doing what we are supposed to do. They should also do what they are supposed to do.
Do you think are there areas maybe that INEC can be stricter on?
Well, we can't go beyond what the law says we should do. For instance,
are you doing all that the law says?
We are doing all, but there's a limit. We can't interfere in internal matters of political parties.
Well, that's not, when it comes to, no one is asking INEC to interfere in.
No, that's what some of them say. That's what
they accuse you of. They accuse INEC of meddling in.
Yes.
In
when we try to tell them, you know, that it. For instance, let me tell you something. There was a particular election that we conducted, and one political party nominated an underage candidate. And then we wrote to the political party to say that you have nominated an underage candidate, you know. So they felt we were trying to dictate to them who they're going to put forward. So we try to advise, we try to reach out to them as much as possible diplomatically and draw their attention to what the law says. However, when it comes to the matter of law, either the Constitution or the Electoral Act, we apply the sanctions, because if you flout that, then we have to come in and say, you cannot do this. And sometimes when we take such actions, they go to court, and the court then tells them now, no, INEC was right in this. And then they come back and comply.
Do you find that delays the process?
Well, it doesn't delay the process because, like I said, it depends on what we are looking at. If it's about deadline for submission of nominated candidate, they comply. You know, sometimes they ask for more time to do certain things. If it's something we can do, we give them the benefit. But if it's not something we can do, we tell them that, look, due to X, Y, Z, because again, when we release timetable and schedule of activities, it's a chain of events, and one will affect the other. If we don't complete one activity within a time frame, it's going to spill over and affect the other one. And then it will affect the other one till the end. So we don't want that. And we call them. We go, you know, out of our way to contact, like if we give a deadline for you to nominate candidates, and when it's 2 days to the deadline, and we don't see anything in the portal, we call the national officers that, look, we have not seen this, we have not seen that. We are not supposed to do that. I mean, they have what it takes. We've given them all the information they need. But in order to help them not to run foul of the law, we try to needle them like that. And they appreciate it. Some of them respond. And so for us, we have a good relationship. Sometimes we argue, we fight, that's normal, but we have a way of reconciling.
Let's go back to the conversation about corruption within the ranks of INEC. You have stated it here that you would have fifth columnists. And it's not just about INEC, it's a worldwide situation. How do you handle corruption within your ranks? And how do you sanitize it?
Thank you very much. First of all, we have what we call a code of conduct for staff. And then we have code of conduct for election managers. It's all stated what you're expected to do. For instance, we are conducting election. These are the steps you're expected to take. You can't take any step outside that. And of course, even the civil service rules are there because staff of INEC are also civil servants. They are subject to such laws. You know that dereliction of duty is an offense, fraud is an offense, sabotage is an offense. So all these things are stated. Now, if you try to influence the result of an election in favor of a political party, by whichever means, maybe by seizing materials or just giving them information that you are not supposed to give them, and in the course of investigation, we find out, we apply the rules. In fact, what we do is to interdict such staff first. You know, I recall that after the 2015 general election, the EFCC sent a letter to us asking for the release of some staff who were being investigated over allegations of fraud at that time. So INEC responded by interdicting those staff members and releasing them to be prosecuted. Now, interdiction does not mean that we find them guilty. It's that go and clear yourself. If you are not found guilty, then you come back and then we restore whatever it is that we have interdicted. And EFCC prosecuted some of them. You know, those who had issues had to answer for those issues. Those who don't have issues were cleared. So it then goes on to show that, you know, we will not allow corruption. When we were carrying out the continuous voter registration, there was an officer who was accused of collecting money from voters before we issue a card or register them. And it is, I think it's in Plateau State, if I'm not mistaken. And he was suspended and he was punished for that. So where we have evidence, we take action. Because we have said we will not tolerate bad behavior. At the same time, we also try to reward staff members who are hardworking. For the most part, our staff are very hardworking. In fact, what they do sometimes, I look at it as beyond the call of duty, which many people don't recognize. But the few ones that do the wrong thing are the ones that probably the media will amplify and give the impression as if, you know, all the staff members are like that, but that's not the case.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room. INEC has been accused of making resident electoral commissioners of card-carrying members of political parties. A person who is known, and they're saying there are multiple people this time, a person who has been accused of being a very, very active member of a political party. They see him at rallies, wearing party logos, and INEC has made this person a resident electoral commissioner. They've accused you of deciding to ruin our election umpire by allowing the political class capture it in this way. What do you have to say about this? And you know the person that we're talking about here, don't you?
Well, thank you very much. I knew that question would come. But let me say this. INEC has no hand in the nomination, screening, and confirmation of national commissioners or resident electoral commissioners. It's strictly between the federal government and the Senate, or let me say the federal government and the National Assembly. Now, what the law says is that the federal government nominates, and then such nominees are screened by the National Assembly, by the Senate specifically. Now, there is an opportunity for concerned citizens who have evidence to the contrary to then approach the Senate committee during public hearings or by way of petition to say that this person has this baggage, and according to the Constitution, this person cannot be appointed. And the Senate committee must look at those things and then contextualize those petitions and concerns and make a determination whether they have merit or they don't have merit. But INEC is totally out of that. You know, we can't interfere because we are neither the appointing authority nor the screening and confirmation authority. So once the nominee has gone through the Senate screening and confirmed, INEC has no option than to swear the person in. That's how it works. So it is not...
Should it work that way?
That's what the law says. We can't do anything about it.
Is it a law that should be changed in your view?
Well, I wouldn't say that you are asking the wrong person, because for our friends in the civil society, and we appreciate their concerns, because their concerns are legitimate. That, okay, they feel that you can't bring partisan people into an election management body because it has implications. They are right. And, you know, they have evidence to show in other places where this has happened. But I think it is now time for them to approach the National Assembly to now change the law and introduce certain measures, additional measures. I think, you know, the law is there to be amended, to bring in, you know, as we amend, as we improve, we also see something that we either need to add or remove or whatever, you know. So where concerns are legitimate, the laws could be improved, and then actions could be taken. But for us at INEC, we cannot refuse to swear in a nominee of the federal government that has been screened and confirmed by the Senate. So at that stage, it's out of our hands.
That paints a very bleak picture.
Well, I don't know if it paints a bleak picture, but what we need to find out is those concerns. I don't know if the Senate committee considered them. I mean, if people feel so strongly, they should take the Senate committee up and ask them. I don't know what happened. I didn't follow that process.
I mean, this situation has opened up a full conversation about resident electoral commissioners themselves. Even the idea that they are being nominated by the president, you know, and screened by the Senate. Why not get someone that from the ranks of INEC? You know, it's like a political appointment. And the conversation is really a simple one. If I was nominated to be a resident electoral commissioner by a politician, who is because the president is a politician, he belongs to a political party, with which moral backbone will I go against anything that I'm asked to do?
Well, that's the way
and we have seen it play out in Nigeria here. So isn't that something that INEC should probably look into? I know you're saying we can't do anything about it because, you know, the law has done its bit, you know, the president, and then they're screened by the National Assembly. We cannot now say we can't swear in this person. But isn't that something that as an election umpire you should be a little worried about? Well, because it feeds into the narrative that the election umpire can be captured if a concerted effort is made to ensure that recs are card-carrying members of a particular political party. It is possible to capture this umpire. What do you think?
Well, we've had the narratives of being captured. Again, let me say that we appreciate the concerns of the civil society, our friends, our stakeholders, who want things to be done in a proper way. We appreciate that. But I also want to say this. The structure of INEC, the improvement that have gone into INEC in the last 10, 15 years are so strong that it will be difficult for one person or a group of persons to change. How are you going to, what advantage are you going to bring in? Because the way we conduct our election are stated in the law. The way we collate our results are stated in the law. The way we announce our results are stated in the law. There must, for instance, on election day, people must go to the polling units. They must vote. And the end of voting, you must count the ballots. And, you know, agents of political parties and Nigerians that are interested will bear witness. So everything is decided at the polling units, right? So now, if you count the votes and it's clear to everybody that a particular candidate and party has won, are you going to change that? You are not going to be able to do that. Because if you do it, now the agents are entitled to a copy of the Form EC8A, that's the polling unit result, election result. They have that in their custody. They will go to court and challenge it because that's what you give to them. Will you now go to collation center and write another figure? You are even supposed to paste Form EC60E, which is the people's version of the Form EC80, right at the polling unit after counting and declaration has been made. So you are now going to change, that means you are going to change the figures of the Form EC given to all party agents. It's simply impossible. So people should also understand these things. Where are you going to help the candidates? The fears are genuine, but I'm unable to understand how that is going to be done because if you follow, and another thing I like about Nigerians is that they are very much interested in our activities. So they monitor what we do, which is good for us. It keeps us on our toes. So the demand is everything we do must be in the public domain, and that's what we are doing. All of the processes. The collation centers are there up to the time that we announce result. And that's the purpose for Irev as well. The presiding officer is expected to, upload the Form EC8A to the INEC result viewing portal. We brought in that innovation to engender transparency. And we have achieved a lot of mileage through that. So people are able to see what is posted there. It's not an electronic collation thing, but you are able to see what happened in any polling unit, in any constituency, in any ward, and then you can self-tabulate. But again, the fears are genuine that if partisan persons come into INEC, they are likely to disrupt things, yes. But I also tell you that, yes, it is bad, but more importantly for me, I think that that person will not find it easy to influence the result of an election to favor his political party. The system is going to stop him right there.
So let's talk a bit about the Irev, since you brought it up. Just so we can understand what's going on here. For many Nigerians, the Irev was supposed to be what determined the credibility of this electoral process. Just so people can understand what has happened. What happened with the election? What was that judgment about? And where are we now when it comes to the use of the Irev in our elections?
Thank you very much. I knew that would come. First of all, let me correct an impression. Irev was not supposed to determine the credibility of the general election or any election for that matter. And let me give you a bit of background on what led to the creation of the portal. In 2017, when we conduct elections, our stakeholders, observers submit observation reports, and we study these things, take the advice, and implement the ones at the administrative level as much as possible. And we discovered that Nigerians have trust issues with the result management process, the commission. Usually, voting takes place, everything all well and good at the polling unit, but when it gets to pollution, that's when Nigerians begin to suspect. So the commission then decided that we need to find a way of allowing Nigerians to follow through when we are collating and up to the time we make a declaration. So we started this innovation with the Anambra governorship election in 2017 when we introduced the form that I referred to earlier, Form EC60E. It's a poster version of Form EC8A. And what that means is that after the declaration, sorting, counting, and declaration, the presiding officer must also paste that poster result sheet by the polling unit in a conspicuous place so people can take pictures of it. So when we did that in 2017, people really loved the idea. Across all the local governments, people knew the winner of the election even before INEC, made the official announcement. And by the time we made the announcement, it correlated with what people had done. So since that time, we have now been looking for ways to improve it. So what we have done with Irev is just to take that innovation to the World Wide Web. Irev is supposed to give Nigerians the opportunity to see in real time results of polling units. It is not an electronic collation portal, as some people say. some Nigerians felt that it was like we have electronic voting and we don't have electronic voting, therefore it is electronic collation. No. I compare the Irev to the scoreboard. You know, we had this African match yesterday, the Cup of Nations final. I know there was a scoreboard there. When Nigeria scored one, the scoreboard showed it.
So as much as we could see the goal being scored, that just shows
yes.
us. Okay.
And then when Cote d'Ivoire equalized, it showed it. Then when Cote d'Ivoire scored another goal, that's what Irev does. Irev is just there waiting for me see it is uploaded by the presiding officer from the various polling units to the portal. So it takes it and displays. So it's just a displaying portal. Is
it a criteria?
Well, for us, it's a criteria. We in our regulations and guidelines, presiding officers are expected to do that. You know, we also introduce beavers.
If they don't, what happens?
No, it will be dereliction of duty.
But does it negate the result of that place?
No, it doesn't negate the result. We put that because we wanted our presiding officer to take that issue very seriously because we want to see the results there as much as possible.
So when the elections happened in 2023, what was the situation with the Irev?
Well, you know, we issued a statement, and this is something that is very sad for us, you know, and I will draw an analogy. We had a glitch, and when people say, what is the meaning of a glitch? And then realize that people have not really looked at the meaning of a glitch. The meaning of a glitch is when you have a massive meltdown of your system.
So you had a massive meltdown of
your system? We have a massive meltdown of the system, and we tried to tackle it. It took some time.
While the elections were going on?
Yes, you know, no, not while the elections were going on. You know, we started noticing in the afternoon. You know, normally...
On the day of the election?
On the day of the election.
Okay.
We started noticing, you know, we had successfully used Irev for various by-elections, for end of term.
So for the general elections, you started noticing the glitch in the afternoon?
In the afternoon.
Okay.
That, okay, this was happening. And then we started tackling it. All right? And what I also say is that, you know, I use social media a lot, and I know that the big tech companies, Facebook, Twitter, WhatsApp, sometimes have this meltdown. I've had a situation where I couldn't use WhatsApp for 24 hours. You know, that's also a glitch. So
while when you were trying to fix the glitch, you weren't able to fix it?
No, we fixed it eventually, but it took some time. Do you understand?
When was it fixed?
It was fixed later in the day.
After the elections?
After the election, it took some hours, you know, and then we issued a statement because we were trying to understand what happened. But it wasn't due to external sabotage, as some people had said that, okay, because that's
what I was going to ask you next.
Yeah, because
what caused your glitch?
You know, now, the report of the 2020 general election is going to be released very soon. We are finalizing it. We devoted a section of that report to what happened to Irev.
So what caused the glitch?
What caused the glitch and all that. So I don't want to preempt.
When is it coming out?
Well, I'm not sure of the day specifically. We have not announced, but I hope probably in the next 2-3 months.
Okay. So after the glitch happened and you tried to fix it, you were able to fix it eventually.
We fixed it eventually, and then we started uploading.
And then you started uploading.
Yes.
But by then, people who were at the polling units who were waiting to see it uploaded on the Irev weren't able to see it.
No, you don't need to be at the polling unit. You only need a smartphone.
Okay, so those who were waiting
if you are registered.
So that delay made people to believe there was something funny going on.
And that is the point. You see,
okay,
I need to make something very clear.
Yes.
Hold on, Kayla. You see, the process of collating results, presidential election results, is known in law. It's not through Irev. Elections are conducted at polling units. When you declare, you go to the ward level, you collate, right? From the ward level, you go to the local government level, you collate. From local government level, you go to the state level, you collate. The returning officer at the state level then takes the result to Abuja, to the chief returning officer, who is the INEC chairman. INEC chairman is the only person that can declare the result of a presidential election.
We know this.
Now, listen, you know, what people don't understand is that that's what the law says. It has not changed. regardless of the fact that we introduced that. And that was exactly what we did.
Despite,
if there was no
despite the
Irev,
fact that you introduced the Irev.
yes.
So that's what I'm coming to. When the case now went to court, when people stay bringing up the matter in court, that ruling basically tried to explain what you're explaining to me right now.
Yeah.
So the fact that the Irev didn't, started working late, it didn't work at the time when people wanted it to work, and you were able to fix it later, that in no way, affects what was announced by INEC.
It didn't affect it because what do we post to INEC?
Because what INEC, so you're saying what INEC, declared is what is on the Irev.
Of course, because you can't do one.
But the Irev not working at the time when people wanted it to does not change the outcome.
No. It's not about when people wanted it to. It's our innovation. Irev is ours. We own it.
You promised it to the Nigerian people.
We did.
Yes, and a lot of
intended.
Nigerians held on to it.
No. That's right. We promised Nigeria we were going to do it, and we wanted to do it, and we were determined to do it. But we had that glitch which we didn't bargain for. My problem now is that many Nigerians don't believe we have a glitch. I'm talking about those who supported a particular party or a particular candidate. If you speak to those who won the election, for instance, they don't have any problem. My own is that, why is it that it's difficult for you to trust the fact that we had a problem? And why do you think that because of that glitch, we changed the figures? Because what we are posting on the Irev is what has been declared at the polling unit. And let me tell you, every political party is supposed to have an agent at all the polling units.
But just to be clear, the Irev working or not working...
It's working.
I'm saying, whether it works or not is not a determinant.
It's not a determinant.
As to the credibility of the electoral process.
No, it's not a determinant. It's like an enhancer. That, okay, we have
like if the scoreboard went off, but we saw the game.
We saw the game. Exactly. We have declared the result. It's available for those who have collected it. It is that same result that we are posting to Irev. You understand? So whether we do Irev or not, that result is still going to go through all the collation processes up to Abuja, where the entire results will be announced.
So that's basically
what
people
then feel.
But that's basically what the courts.
Yeah, that's what the courts say. Because
so where are we now with the use of the Irev?
No, Irev has come to stay.
Does it work?
Of course, it's working.
I saw it work, by the way. I saw it work in Owerri.
No, it's working.
In some place in Owerri. That was during the governorship election.
Yes.
In Owerri.
We are going to use it for Edo. We are going to use it for Ondo. We use it for these by-elections.
You use them for the by-elections.
Yes. If you go on the Irev portal now, you'll see all the results there.
They worked on time, no glitches.
No glitches.
There hasn't been any glitch since the 2023 general elections.
No, we fixed it. Now, machines are unpredictable. Sometimes you don't bargain for certain things and you think you've got everything right, but something will just... It's like when COVID happened, is it 2019 or 2020? Nobody saw COVID coming. But look at how COVID changed our lives forever. So sometimes this happens. But then, trust is very important. Nigerians need to develop trust. I can understand that it is not peculiar to INEC. Nigerians have trust issues with public institutions. Maybe rightly or wrongly. But
just so they can understand, the Irev is here to stay. However, remember, it's a scoreboard. If the scoreboard doesn't work in the next elections...
Irev does not determine the credibility of any election. It is just there to display the polling unit result sheet for you to see, for instance, if we hold the Edo governorship election. All the polling units in Edo State, at the end of voting, the presiding officer is expected to upload it. So if you are interested, you register because you must supply your email address, you must create a password.
I think what happened, Mr. Rotimi, is the way it was sold to Nigerians. Because I remember when INEC was selling the idea of the Irev to us before the general election.
The way it was sold or the way Nigerians understood it?
No, the way it was sold, we all understood it the same way. Oh, there is an additional measure. Good, this will determine, It was sold as though it was going to be this new check against the corruption that we believe at that level. Because you were right, the election process, it's at that level that we think the hanky-panky happens.
Kayla, I can produce for you the statement,
you know,
the statement that we issued.
It wasn't a statement. People were on television. You were talking everywhere.
Everything is coming from that point. I understand your position. But at the beginning, when we introduced Irev, we told Nigerians what the purpose of Irev is. That it is not an electronic collation portal. That's very important. People miss that. It is not collating. When you have electronic voting, essentially there must be electronic collation. Nigerian doesn't practice electronic voting, so we can't have electronic collation. All INEC tried to do, in the spirit of engendering transparency, is to say, okay, because, like I said, we discovered that problems arise during collation of results. Nigerians begin to suspect us. Okay, why can't Nigerians have access to the result at the polling units directly on the World Wide Web? That's all. And even when you have access to it, you are not supposed to announce results. You know? So when the case went to court, the court wasn't looking at our regulations. The court was looking at what the Constitution and the Electoral Act says. That, okay, how did the law, Constitution, say that the election should be collated? And we said so, that this is what we are doing. But I think that the euphoria of technology is what Nigerians got to say, oh, this is electronic voting, this is electronic collation. Because I got many calls, of course, from colleagues and all of that. Why is it that you people are, you know, it's like, for them, posting those things is like electronic collation and all that. It's something, the concept was misunderstood. Look, what really caused all this problem was a glitch. We regret that deeply. We were hurt by what happened, the glitch.
And you are doing a party verification exercise right now, aren't you? You're checking how wholesome. How is it going?
Well, I think we have just about 2 political parties left that have asked for extension. If they don't meet up with standard, there are measures we can take. For instance, we can write to them to say, you are failing in X, Y, Z. You know, because we can't go outside what the law says to the registered political parties. Because apart from the requirements for registration, there are also other things contained in the criteria, like participating in election and winning seats, you know, the minimum and all of that. So if you don't do that, then, you know, we can take action. But then we need to have a general election and we need to have the FCT area council election because the criteria falls within those 2 types of elections.
Before we let you go, should Nigerians trust INEC?
Absolutely.
To give them free, fair, credible elections?
Kayla, I will say this with all my heart. Those who are managing INEC, led by Mahmoud Jaku, they are doing a lot of work in that place. You know, I joined INEC in 2016. And unless you see from close quarters what they are doing, you will not believe it. Sleepless nights, risk, and on top of that, you know, people don't even appreciate it. People still say all manner of things. And this particular commission has brought in so many innovations to strengthen the system. For instance, you know, we had 119,973 polling units. We extended it to 176,846. And we had the previous number of polling units for about 25 years. You know, we have expanded the continuous voter registration. For the first time, now you can go online to register. So all these innovations are to give Nigerians access to the polling unit and the opportunity to vote, to put PVCs in people's hands. And we are very open. You know, for me, the greatest beauty of INEC is its openness. This commission is open. We bring in stakeholders to look at what we are doing. We have nothing to hide. And we are open to advice. We are not perfect, but we have no other business than ensuring that we conduct free, fair, and credible elections. Now, if there are issues, tell us. If you see our staff engaging in what is not right, tell us. We'll take action. If you see any of our officers doing that, take action. You know, in fact, we are the most monitored public institution in this country. I haven't seen any other because every time people are talking about INEC, and that, you know, keeps us on our toes. that we must do the right thing. And in this world of social media, you can't even engage in something wrong and you will not be exposed. So Nigerians should learn to trust us and give us the benefits of the doubt. And we'll continue to do our best to give free, fair, and credible elections.
Mr. Rotimi, I want to thank you very much for being with us on Political Paradigm.
Thank
and
you.
Good luck. I know you have some elections that you're about to get ready for.
That's right.
Good luck with all the work that you do.
Thank you so much for having me.
We have been speaking with the Chief Press Secretary to the INEC Chairman, Mr. Rotimi Oyekanmi. Please join the conversation on channelstv.com. Leave your comments and let's keep asking until the accountability question is answered. Thank you so much for watching. I am Kayla Magwa. See you next time.